Welcome back, everyone. Today, I want to show you a framework that I often use. I deem it one of the most important frameworks when talking about strategy or have an overview of businesses. It is mainly used for three cases. The first one is you just have a business idea, or someone approaches me and tells me, hey, I want to do this and that. And then to see if the idea itself is kind of valid or valid in its conception, I use this model. Second approach, or let's say second case I use it, is for startups to help them find a product market fit. So if I can go through the whole model without having any issues, I am more confident to find a product market fit when then going into the customer side or market side of evaluating their business model. And the last case where the framework is useful is when a business is having problems or is struggling. Then I would use the business model star, as I call this whole framework, to evaluate in what area of the business there are struggles and what can be done in the specific areas. So the framework is, I call it a business model stars when I'm talking about it with my team. It's also some kind of derivation of the business model canvas, but I cut out the unimportant or stuff that I deemed unimportant and was left with five branches. And I will show you each one of them, go through them, and have an example ready to show how it is applied. So we will work with a fictional pizza shop and go through the business model to evaluate if the model of the pizza shop is valid or not. So the first branch is the value proposition of the company. So what problem is solved and what product or service is built in order to solve the problem. For the pizza shop, it's pretty easy. What problem is solved? People are hungry, and the product that is offered is pizza. For this branch, it's really important that you don't go through it too easily. Sometimes, if you have like a luxury pizza shop, the problem that is solved is not being hungry, but having status or going on a date, impressing other people. And the product is not really the pizza itself, but could be like the ambiente of the restaurant. Even with technical products or software, these questions can become like more nuanced than they're explained right here, but it's one of the most important steps of your business. If you don't have a clear value proposition, you will most likely have problems in your business. One thing I would do when evaluating a value proposition, if I'm not sure whether these questions can be answered coherently and easily, I would go through the means and chain of a customer. So let's take the example of a luxury pizza shop again. You will go through the means and chain of the customer. So what's the end? The end of the customer is to impress his date, for example. And then I will go back the means and chain and see whether the attributes of my product, and that's not only the pizza, that's also the ambiente in this case, matches the end that the customer wants to achieve. If yes, then I will have a clear value proposition. So the next branch or arch of the business model star is the design of the activity system. So as I said before, a business is the sum of processes, and the activity system refers to how are these processes aligned, how are they designed. So the core question here is, when is what done by whom? For the pizza shop is when, if you look at the processes of a pizza shop, you need someone or something that orders all the food, or like the raw materials. You need someone to process them, you need someone to serve them, and you need to cash um, the checks and charge the customer in the end. So this activity system can be done by just one guy on the corner that I just described, but it can be like more complex in like a restaurant setting, or even for a really complex franchise. Um, you know, some of them, Domino's, Papa John's, they do have like a much more complex activity system. But it's not about the simplicity of it, but that it's coherent. So if you go through this, or your processes, your activity system that you designed, do you get from zero to the product delivered? And if no, then you most likely will need to think of another process here. For tech companies, this becomes really, really important, because although there is complexity in something like a value chain for pizzas, like at the scale of Domino's or Papa John's, you still are going to manage that with no prior experience, to see sort of missing or gaps in your value chain. You will see them more easily if you have a physical product. That's what I saw in mm, my experience. So let me get to the next one, and that's the management of the activity system. So we saw that we designed one, and now it's about the question, how do we reflect on the processes, on the system that we designed before, that we built before. And this comes to, how are we implementing feedback loops into our system, so that we know, okay, now we have to change something in the system, or this part of the system we can leave it like that because it's efficient or effective. And this breaks down to management and leadership style. So a question a pizza shop would have answered in for this branch is, when do I hire or fire employees? And how is this decision made? Is it made by just one guy, or is it made by the by everyone working on it? Is it made easily, or do we have like a big reflection process before such a decision is made? And this is important to think about if you want to construct a business or have um, a business idea implemented, because it predicts the reactivity, the flexibility of your business. The fourth art of the business model star is about resources. So what do you need in order to fulfill the value proposition, and what do you need to have your activity system implemented? Also, what do you need to reflect on your activity system? Usually it's these four. Let's go through them with our pizza shop. You would most likely need capital to open up your pizza shop, either to finance the life of yourself, of the business owner, or the one who is working, since we are not there yet to have a whole pizza shop fully automated. So even for the equipment and the other resources, you might need some capital if you don't find another solution. Then what technology do you need? For tech companies, this becomes a whole lot bigger of a question. For a pizza shop, is most likely heat, an oven, the equipment, um, and the knowledge of creating the pizza. This is connected with the next one, of course. So the recipe, also the leadership style, the management of your pizza shop, and the knowledge about your value proposition, about your customers. Don't forget them. You will have to count it into your resources that you need for the business model. So when I look at a company, at a business, I try. It's easier said than done, but I try to evaluate the knowledge um, of the whole team or the business owner in order to fulfill the activity system, to build it in order to fulfill the value proposition of the business. And of course, there are tangible resources, as mentioned. You need a place, you need an oven, and you need raw materials, you need tomatoes and mozzarella and stuff. Now, this is my favorite branch, the last one, and it's the revenue model. And the question is, who is charged what and how? And this is mostly a form of pricing. So in marketing, you do have pricing, and you should um, do the thinking in terms of marketing, or in this context, not with the business model itself. But you need to be sure, if you like only design a business model, an idea, am I going to be able to charge the right person the right amount of money, and do that at the right time? So this is not naturally evident all the time. So, and it can shift um, according to each one of the other arches. So if you need more capital, you are most likely to have to revise your revenue model. If the problem that is solved, if you're positioned as the pizza shop, not as the one that solves the problem of hunger, but the one of luxury, then you will need to have another revenue model in order to have your activity system built in the way that the problem is solved. If you think about it, for a pizza shop, it's most likely to be, I charge my customer, the one that eats the pizza, um, a direct price, a fixed price for each model of the pizza, and just have them pay right on delivery if I start. But if my business model, my activity system becomes more complex, it might be um, advisable to have them pay through a provider, um, like they would on Uber Eats. Also, if I switch from being just the pizza that steals my hunger towards the pizza place that impresses the customer's date, I will most likely be adjusting my pricing. So we went through all these arches, and now we can see how each and every arch implements or impacts a business model. And now to get back to the three applications or cases, you would most likely go through each and every one of them and see if they fit together when creating a business idea. So see if you can answer every questions in a sensible way. Then for a startup, to see whether there is a go-to market, you will go through this same, and then do your market analysis and your customer analysis in order to have an informed decision whether it fits or not. Just conception. As I said before and will say in the future again, as a startup, test your market in reality as soon as you can. It's nice to know that it might work in theory, but for a startup, just test your product or service on the market as soon as you can. And Nevertheless, for the third case, it's the most useful I find, and I use it in uh, in the way that I will look at a business that has some difficulties, and I will attach the problem, the label of one of those five topics. So it might be that I can see that a pizza shop is having troubles of getting new customers, then I would probably say it's value proposition. If you have problems with your staff, maybe it's your leadership style, your the management of your activity system, and if your pizza shop is not profitable enough, it might be the activity system itself or the revenue model, or you're not equipped to having the activity system on this level. So what I always would do is like break down a problem into each five of those categories, and then see, okay, is it connected with another one? And this makes it much more easier to break down a problem in order to solve it for the future of your business. So I effectively learned this framework in strategic management, a course at university, and I still find it useful, still use it when doing presentations, and apply it in reality for these three cases that I mentioned. Yes, thank you very much for listening, and have a nice day.